I was being interviewed live as the state's top academic scorer. Suddenly, my supposedly sweet and shy best friend, Lila Vance, leaned into the camera. She covered her mouth with a fake gasp. "Oh my God, Summer, you actually did it? You really slept your way to getting those leaked exam keys?" She looked at the camera with wide, innocent eyes. "I didn't think you'd actually be able to stomach the principal's beer belly." As the reporters stood there in shocked silence, she doubled down on her act. "But it's okay. Even though you bullied our classmates and drove your own mother into a psychiatric ward, being number one is all that matters, right?" In my previous life, I had panicked. I desperately tried to explain, begging her to stop lying on live television. She just cried, claiming she was only worried about me taking the wrong path. Ultimately, the cyberbullying drove me to jump off a building, and my body. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at this exact moment. Lila was blinking her big, teary eyes at me. "By the way, that 3-month-old baby in your belly, when are you planning on getting rid of it?" I watched the live comments on the screen explode with rage.
I didn't get angry this time.
Instead, I gently pushed the microphone closer to her lips. "Keep going. Don't stop now." After all, the more she said now, the harder she would scream later. Lila Vance froze for a second. She clearly hadn't expected this reaction from me. In my last life, I was shaking with rage by now, stumbling over my words to tell everyone I was innocent. But now, I just watched her performance with a calm, cold stare. She quickly recovered, the hidden joy in her eyes impossible to mask. She pulled out her phone and swiped through her gallery right in front of the lenses. I really didn't want to expose this, but I just can't stand seeing Summer lose her way like this. She wiped away fake tears while shoving her screen toward the nearest camera. The crowd gasped as the images became clear. The first photo was a security footage screenshot of a girl entering a hotel late at night. The girl wore a hat and a mask, but she was wearing the exact same jacket I had on today. Then came the second image, a series of suggestive texts between me and the prince. The messages were filled with disgusting details of a trade, even mentioning a room number. The third was a screenshot of a file titled Classified National Exam Keys. The fourth was a bank statement showing a $20,000 deposit into my account. The air in the room turned ice cold. The reporters, who had been shouting questions moments ago, went dead silent. The live comment section froze for a heartbeat before exploding into a frenzy of hate. Microphones were shoved into my face, as if they wanted to draw blood. The viewer count for the live stream skyrocketed, hitting over 100,000 in seconds. Sitting in the front row, Principal Miller turned pale as a ghost, his hands shaking so hard he dropped his water. The dean of students was frantically talking on his phone, sweat pouring down his face. "It's the school board.
They want us to shut this down now."
Cut the feed. But it was too late. The chaos had already taken on a life of its own. Dean Marcus Reed from Kingsley University, who was there to hand me my scholarship, stood up. He walked over to me with a dark expression, clutching the admission offer in his hand. "Summer Sterling, do you admit to any of this?" Before I could speak, a reporter's mic almost hit my teeth. "Miss Sterling, do you admit your scores were bought with your body? Did you really drive your mother into a breakdown? Please answer. Stop hiding." I was surrounded by cameras, trapped like a prisoner on death row. Lila hid behind the crowd, unable to hide her smug grin. Everyone was waiting for me to break, to cry, to beg for mercy. I looked into the lenses and reached out for the host's microphone. Then I looked Lila straight in the eye. "She's right." The room erupted. My voice remained flat and effortless. It wasn't just the exam keys, the bullying, driving my mother crazy, being 3 months pregnant. It's all true. Lila's eyes widened. She looked ecstatic, convinced that I had finally given up and decided to crash and burn. The live stream chat was a war zone, with insults screaming across the screen.
"Scum.
Get out of the education system. Go die. How can someone so disgusting be the state valedictorian? Cancel her scores. Ban her for life. Throw her in jail. 3 months pregnant and pretending to be a pure angel.
Disgusting."
A few parents who were visiting the school lost control. A middle-aged woman broke through security and pointed a finger at my nose. Give my child a fair chance. My daughter lost hair from stress while you just slept with an old man for the top spot. This is fraud. Give the title back to a real student. The scene was spiraling into a riot as security struggled to hold back the angry parents. Lila decided to throw more gas on the fire. She stepped forward, spreading her arms as if to protect me from the crowd. Please don't be too hard on Summer. She just wanted to succeed too badly. She comes from a poor background, and the temptation was too much. As for the baby, I'm sure she'll take care of the problem. If not, I'll help her raise it. Just stop scaring her. Her words only made the crowd angrier. Water bottles and crumpled papers started flying toward me. The dean of students grabbed my arm. His brow furrowed in anger. Summer Sterling, what the hell are you doing? I tilted my head, watching Lila's masterful performance, and smiled. Her show was over. Now it was my turn. I looked at Lila, my voice steady. We've known each other since middle school, Lila. 10 years. Do you really think I have nothing to say for myself? Lila's shoulders shook as she forced more tears to fall. Because we've been friends for 10 years, I can't watch you keep lying. The reporters saw an opening and pushed their mics forward again. Miss Sterling, you disappeared after night classes frequently. Were you meeting the principal? Did you really ignore your mother while she was in the hospital just to study for competitions? Answer the questions. Don't just stand there. I remained silent in the face of their interrogation. The more I stayed quiet, the more the public's rage boiled over. A professor from Kingsley University stood up, his face grim. This is a disgrace. Until the investigation is complete, Kingsley will suspend Summer Sterling's admission. Lila immediately rushed over, grabbing the professor's sleeve. Professor, please don't destroy her entire life. She was just confused. Then, she lowered her voice, though it was still loud enough for the mics to catch. But if her spot is cancelled, could the school keep that scholarship for someone else in our district? My family is struggling too, and I could carry her dream forward for her, without waiting for an answer. She turned back to me with a look of deep pain. Summer, why don't you donate that $50,000 prize money to the students you hurt? It's the right thing to do. Seeing that I wasn't fighting back, Lila grew bolder. She turned to the cameras and raised her voice. Actually, Summer didn't just cheat on exams. She once cornered a girl in the bathroom and slapped her until she transferred schools. When her mother found out about her and the principal, she had a total breakdown, but Summer wouldn't even visit her. She even used boys on the debate team to do her work, then blocked them the second the trophies were hers. The live stream chat shifted from anger about grades to pure vitriol toward my character. Die, you bitch. People like you don't deserve to breathe. She belongs in prison. Strip her of everything. The crowd below the stage was losing it. Several parents broke through the security line and lunged toward the stage. A man grabbed a half-full water bottle and threw it directly at my face. My son studied for 3 years and didn't get in, while a slut like you stole his spot. Security tackled him. But the room was a mess of shouting and chaos. I didn't cry. I didn't hide. I simply wiped the water from my face and gave Lila a small smile.
Right.
Everything she said is true. Lila blinked, her eyes shining with a triumph she could barely contain. She was certain I was broken, that I had lost the will to fight. I watched her, thinking only one thing. Keep talking, Lila. Say everything you didn't get to say in my last life. Lila, seeing the crowd was on her side, went for the kill. Actually, Summer even hired someone to do her national science project for her. That first-place trophy probably isn't even hers. Cheating on the state exam was bad, but fraud in a national competition was a felony. If this stuck, I wouldn't just lose my school spot. I'd face criminal charges. I turned to her and spoke coldly. Is that all? If you have more evidence, you should show it all at once. The fake sadness on Lila's face froze. She stared at me, showing a flicker of genuine panic for the first time. Lila reached into her backpack and pulled out a USB drive. Dean Reed, I really didn't want it to come to this, but Kingsley is a prestigious institution. It can't protect someone who sells themselves for grades. She handed the drive to a technician nearby. The giant screen on the stage flickered to life. The video showed a dimly lit hotel hallway. A girl in a black hoodie kept her head down as she swiped a keycard into a room. The camera cut to a girl who looked exactly like me sitting on the edge of a bed, half undressed. Beside her, the principal's greasy, blurred face appeared. The most graphic parts were heavily pixelated, but the suggestive sounds coming from the speakers were enough to make anyone sick. The chat went into a nuclear meltdown. Holy crap. There's actual video. There's no coming back from this.
She's done.
From valedictorian to a joke. Arrest her now. I stared at the screen, a cold shiver running down my spine. I knew that black hoodie all too well. It was the one I wore in my last life when I rushed to the hospital to see my sick mother. Lila struck while the iron was hot. She pulled up high-definition photos on the screen. Look at this. These are the bank transfers she used to buy the leaked keys. When she couldn't pay back the loan, she signed this confidentiality agreement with the principal. The signature on the paper looked identical to my handwriting. Lila wiped her eyes, finally revealing her true goal. Now that the truth is out, she needs to pay back every cent. She should return everything she stole through cheating. Her voice was trembling, but her words were sharp as a knife. I asked the Board of Education and Kingsley University to disqualify Summer Sterling immediately. Give her spot back to the honest students of the state. The internet exploded in a roar of agreement. The parents in the room were shaking their fists, screaming at the top of their lungs. Refund. Give the spot back. Get out. A woman threw her purse at the stage, and it grazed my shoulder. The comments were a wall of get out and trash. Dean Reed stared at the screen, his shock turning into pure cold disappointment. He slammed his folder shut, his voice low and gravelly. Summer Sterling, you are a massive disappointment. We will be reconsidering your admission. Kingsley does not accept students of such low character. The room erupted in cheers. Lila knelt on the floor, her shoulders shaking as if she were sobbing, but I could see the truth. Her shoulders were shaking because she was laughing. She thought she had successfully stolen my life. I didn't argue. I didn't scream. I just nodded calmly and whispered a soft, "Okay." Then I turned and looked down at the kneeling Lila. Are you finished? Lila's fake sobbing hitched in her throat. She looked up, confused by how I could still be so composed. I picked up the microphone, my voice echoing through the hall. Since you're done, it's my turn to speak. The entire auditorium went dead quiet. Even the live stream comments slowed for a second, as if everyone on the internet was holding their breath. I stood in the center of the stage, soaked from the water thrown at me, surrounded by furious parents, reporters, school officials, and cameras broadcasting my humiliation to the entire country. Then I smiled. Not sadly, not bitterly, amused. Lila, I said softly, you worked really hard preparing all this. Her expression twitched. I slowly turned toward the giant screen. Hotel footage, edited chat logs, forged bank records, fake signatures, even a pregnancy rumor. I gave a small clap. Honestly, impressive production quality. The crowd erupted again. She's still denying it. How shameless. Dean Reed's face darkened. Summer Sterling, if you intend to continue lying. Lying? I interrupted calmly.
No.
I just think accusations should come with complete evidence. I lifted my phone, and unlike Lila, I prefer showing the full version. For the first time, genuine panic flashed across Lila's face. I clicked one button. The screen behind me instantly went black. Then a new video appeared. The timestamp in the corner made the entire hall stir. 3 weeks ago. The location? The school's multimedia office. Lila's face appeared on screen clearly. Not innocent. Not sweet. Smirking. The auditorium froze. On screen, Lila leaned against a desk while talking to someone off camera. Are you sure the AI face replacement won't get caught? She asked. A man's voice answered lazily. Not unless forensic analysts inspect frame by frame. Lila laughed.
Please.
By the time they do that, Summer Sterling will already be ruined. The crowd exploded. Lila shot to her feet so fast she nearly tripped. That's fake. I ignored her. The second clip began playing automatically. This time, the camera angle showed Lila sitting in a cafe booth with Principal Miller. The principal shoved an envelope across the table nervously. Lila smiled sweetly. "Once Summer is expelled, recommend me to Kingsley." "You promised." Principal Miller whispered harshly. "You're sure nobody knows you stole the real exam answer sheets?" Lila rolled her eyes. "Relax. Summer's the one taking the fall." The hall detonated into chaos. Principal Miller's legs gave out beneath him. The dean of students went white as paper. Reporters practically climbed over each other trying to get closer to the screen. The live stream comments reversed instantly. "What the hell? She framed her. Call the police. That video was fake." I calmly switched to the third file. "Since Lila was kind enough to show edited evidence," I said mildly, "I should probably show the originals." The hotel footage replayed. Except this time, the uncropped version continued past the edited ending. The girl in the hoodie removed her mask. "It wasn't me. It was Lila." The room went silent so abruptly it hurt. Lila stumbled backward. No, wait. Then came the raw metadata analysis. Timestamps, editing layers, deepfake rendering logs. Every single fabricated file traced back to one laptop, registered under Lila Vance. The audience stared at her like they'd just seen a demon wearing human skin. Her lips trembled violently. I looked at her calmly. "You know what the funniest part is?" She shook uncontrollably. "In my last life, I never understood why you hated me so much." My voice stayed soft. But after digging deeper this time around, I tilted my head. "I realized you didn't hate me. You wanted to become me." Her face lost all color. I continued mercilessly. "You copied my handwriting for years." The screen showed side-by-side samples. "You copied my clothes." Another slide. "You even applied to every competition I entered." More evidence appeared. The reporters were going insane. Flashbulbs exploded non-stop. I smiled faintly. "But no matter how hard you copied me, you could never beat me." Lila suddenly screamed. "Shut up." Her voice cracked hysterically. The sweet, fragile image she'd carefully built shattered completely. Tears streamed down her face as she pointed at me viciously. "You had everything." The crowd gasped. Lila was sobbing now. "Teachers liked you. Students liked you. Universities wanted you. Do you know what people called me?" Nobody spoke. "They called me Summer Sterling's best friend." She broke into ugly, shaking laughter. "So, what if I stole your life? I deserved it more than you." There it was. The truth.
Raw.
Rotten. Pathetic. The live stream audience completely turned on her. Disgusting. She's insane. She tried to kill her. Arrest her now. At that exact moment, several police officers entered the auditorium. Behind them came cybercrime investigators carrying laptops and evidence bags. One officer walked directly toward Lila. "Lila Vance," he said coldly, "you are under investigation for evidence. Fabrication, defamation, cybercrime violations, identity fraud, and theft of confidential examination materials." Lila's knees buckled. She turned desperately toward Principal Miller. But the principal was already being handcuffed. The hall erupted into screaming. Reporters abandoned me entirely and swarmed them instead. Dean Reed stood frozen for several seconds before finally turning toward me slowly. His face was filled with shame. "Miss Sterling," his voice was hoarse, "Kingsley University owes you a formal apology." I looked at him indifferently. "No," I replied. The entire room quieted again. "You owe me a public one." His face burned red. And this time, nobody defended him. Not after the entire nation watched him condemn an innocent girl without even verifying the evidence. The internet turned on the school next. On the university. On every reporter who helped destroy me. Within an hour, #JusticeForSummer became the #1 trending topic nationwide. By evening, the Board of Education released an emergency statement reinstating all my honors. By midnight, Kingsley University publicly announced, *, my admission would be fully restored. * my scholarship would be doubled. Asterisk the university would fund legal action against everyone involved in framing me. As for Lila, the police uncovered everything. She had stolen practice exam materials months ago. She forged evidence, bought deepfake software online. Even the pregnancy records were fabricated using another patient's medical file. And the funniest part? The $20,000 bank transfer she used against me? It came from her own account. She forgot to scrub the metadata. 3 days later, the internet got one final video. Someone had leaked footage from the police station. Lila sat in the interrogation room screaming hysterically while mascara ran down her face. They were supposed to hate her. I did everything right. Why didn't she break this time? I watched the video from my apartment balcony while sipping iced tea. Then I closed the screen. My phone buzzed endlessly with interview requests, sponsorship offers, and apology statements. I ignored all of them because, unlike in my last life, I no longer cared about proving myself to people who wanted me dead the second a lie sounded entertaining enough. 6 months later, the case officially closed. Lila Vance was sentenced for fraud, evidence fabrication, identity theft, cybercrime violations, and stealing confidential exam materials. The court released portions of the forensic report publicly, and the scale of her obsession shocked the entire country. She had spent years copying my mannerisms, forging practice signatures, tracking my schedules, and collecting photos to build the perfect replacement version of me. In the end, the judge said something the internet repeated for weeks afterward. Envy does not excuse cruelty. Principal Miller lost his teaching license permanently and was sentenced alongside several school staff members involved in the exam leak cover-up. The school district quietly paid settlements to students harmed by the scandal, and the administration was almost completely replaced. The reporters who had publicly humiliated me on live television faced massive backlash. Several networks were forced to issue formal apologies after viewers filed complaints about irresponsible reporting and public harassment. One anchor even lost his job after old clips surfaced of him mocking me off camera before the investigation had finished. Kingsley University held an entire press conference just for me. Dean Marcus Reed personally apologized in front of every major media outlet in the state. This time, I made him wait through the same silence he once forced on me. Then I accepted the apology with a smile sharp enough to make him lower his eyes. Kingsley restored my scholarship, expanded it into a full academic grant, and invited me into their national research program before my freshman year even began. As for my mother, the so-called mental breakdown never existed. Lila had anonymously spread edited hospital documents online after my mother was admitted briefly for exhaustion and stress. Once the truth came out, my mother cried harder than I had ever seen before. Not because of the scandal, because in my previous life, she never got the chance to save me. This time, she held my hand through every interview and every courtroom hearing like she was afraid I would disappear if she let go. I let her. Some wounds didn't need pride. They just needed time. And the students Lila claimed I had bullied, most of them publicly testified on my behalf. One girl even uploaded screenshots showing that I had secretly paid her tutoring fees after her father lost his job. Another admitted Lila had pressured students into lying about me by promising connections and scholarship recommendations. The public opinion that once tried to bury me flipped so violently, it almost became uncomfortable. People called me resilient, brilliant, untouchable. I didn't believe any of it, because I had already learned something terrifying in both lives. Crowds don't care about truth. They care about spectacle. The same people screaming for my death had turned around days later and called themselves my supporters. So I stopped living for public approval entirely. At Kingsley University, I kept a low profile, focused on my research, and quietly built the future Lila once tried to steal from me. Years later, when I was invited onto another live interview as one of the youngest researchers in the country, the host nervously asked the question everyone still remembered. Miss Sterling, after everything that happened, do you still believe people are fundamentally good? The studio fell silent. I smiled lightly at the camera, then answered honestly. I think people are curious before they're kind. The host froze. I continued calmly. They wanted a villain, so they made me one. Then they wanted a survivor, so they made me that too. I cross my legs lazily. But none of that has anything to do with who I actually am. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then the audience slowly began to applaud. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough. And this time, for once, I didn't need it.